hitting that live button
Oh
for us
man,
to
you
go.
hit that live button.
Oh man, look at that. We are live on YouTube.
What's
We are
going on,
live
Facebook
on the
people?
Facebook. How's it
Yeah,
going, Facebook people?
yeah, and YouTube people. Sorry, I don't
Mm-hmm.
discriminate. We got my good King merch on.
You
You
do.
know,
You do.
yep.
You do.
Can
When
only
I
be
find
bought
mine,
at.
I'm gonna fish it out.
Oh, yes. Well, I don't know why you had to search for it. Should be right at the front of your closet. That was in the contract, bro.
That's
Um,
true. Like
yeah,
all good merch, man. It's got to be
yeah,
in the front.
right, yeah, for sure. I mean, I know it's probably just dirty because you've been wearing it too much.
That is true, man. It makes the perfect fit outside, man.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I did. I'm not even joking. I did wear this all day. I'm not saying that just as a marketing technique. I wore this all day because this shirt is mad comfy.
It is
It's
really comfy. I'm not gonna lie, man. Our
yeah,
shirts are pretty darn comfy. They're
I
nice.
know. They have no business being that comfy, man. I'm not gonna lie to you.
There's some high
So
quality stuff.
yeah, so I would highly recommend it for anyone looking for a comfy shirt. Um,
hmm
Darian jumping in on the notification gang, man. Um,
Oh man.
so yeah,
Let me
let's
finish
just
getting this
smack
shared
into
up.
it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we can just hop right on in, man.
yeah. So before we get into this topic, basically what we're talking about, I'm gonna pull it up here. This is a viewer submitted topic, as they all are from here on out for the rest of this show. It's a new thing we introduced
hmm
in this season just a couple weeks ago, actually. So, um, very cool, and we're very excited for it. So this week's topic comes from Catherine Wilson, right? Um,
hmm
she's an avid listener of the show, so thank you for listening, watching, always. Um, topic she would like to hear younger generations take on. Okay, over 65, the boomers, basically, people over
hmm
65 are soon to outnumber the younger generations. And it's because of kind of a rise in birth rate and kind of a slow decline, right? So it's
hmm
kind of well, really, these are boomers and these are millennial Gen Zs, mainly Gen Zs, because millennials aren't really
hmm
reproducing at that high of a rate.
No,
Um,
they aren't.
and so let's see here. So with older people, dealing with chronic diseases like cancer, heart disease, dementia, things like that. How does our generation deal with the emotional, physical, and time demands a loved one's illness might impose on us? And then how does it affect us seeing the frailty of the folks that raised you? So
hmm
obviously going to be kind of an emotional topic.
hmm
And that's fine. That's what we're here for. So we will talk about anything and everything, and I think it will be a good one for us to discuss. Honestly, this is something that's kind of been on my mind lately, really,
Yeah,
and
mine as well.
really, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just kind of inevitable when you get older, but um, we will talk about that, how we deal with it, and what we think. I mean, every generation has had to deal with it to some extent.
hmm
People used to die when they were in their 40s or in their 50s, right? So, not really. If you think about it in the grand scheme, and I should really save this from when we start recording, but if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, you know, people getting old and frail and having these chronic diseases at old age, in the grand scheme of human existence, is pretty uncommon, pretty recent, Um, so it's not something that generations and generations of humans have had to deal with. So yeah, I think this will be a good discussion. I also want to touch on this conspiracy about the government using the Russia-Ukraine crisis to fuel, if you will, the push for electric cars, right?
hmm
Um, and I'm not gonna lie, part of the reason that I wanted to talk about this initially was I bought into conspiracy. So
Oh no!
yeah, yeah. No, I know.
Don't
I know.
buy into it, man.
I bought in, man. I bought in full send on it. Um, yeah. So let's just go ahead and dive right into this. I'm going to start recording here.
Mm-hmm.
We are recording. We are in fact recording. So this is good. Okay. So let's go ahead and get right into it. 3, 2, 1. This week's topic comes to us from Catherine Wilson. It's a bit of a layered one, actually. It's going to be it's going to be a completely different topic from what we normally discuss. And I'm excited for that,
Yeah.
you know?
Me too.
So she would like to hear from our perspective, basically the baby boomer generation soon outnumber younger generations, just because, younger people aren't reproducing as much as that generation did. That's the highest reproduction rate of all time, right?
Yeah.
So with more people dealing with chronic diseases like cancer, heart disease, dementia, things like that, how do we deal with the emotional, physical, and time demands that would impose upon us? And then how does it affect us personally, seeing the frailty of those who raised us? So, I don't remember, I'm not quoting this right, I don't remember where I heard this, but it was something to the effect of the hardest thing is seeing the weakness in your heroes, right? So
Yeah.
your heroes mean those around you that raised you. And so I think it's going to be a really good topic, and there's going to be a lot of layers to this. But as we get older and we enter our older 20s,
Mm-hmm.
or we continue on into that backslide, we, we see more and more of uh, that type of a thing. We see those that we grew up around and had a major part in raising us starting to
Mm-hmm.
become, just older. It's
Yeah.
the sands of time, right? So how do we deal with that? Because I think it does have more of an emotional impact than people realize or let on, if you let it, right? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think it's a focus shift that's easier said than done, but I think it's something that will be a good conversation. So let's go ahead and jump into it, man.
Yeah. Of course.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. What's going on, everybody? I'm John,
And I'm Dennison.
and this is the catch up. In case you guys are wondering, the back behind the scenes stuff has been a little. I've had gigs every Friday night. Is basically what I'm telling you. And I got another one tonight. This one's gonna be interesting. It's in a joint called The Hive,
The Hive.
which is a bar and grill. It looks like it has some smacking food. Hopefully, it does.
Mm-hmm.
But any bar and grill outside of Wichita, you never know. You never know what you're getting into. So, but apparently this is a popping one from Valley Center. So we'll see what it's about. But if you guys watch this and you're out and about tonight, I'll be there with my friend Trip, the drummer of No Signal, aka also the drummer of Abandoned Kansas. We'll be over there doing tunes from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. man. So it's
long night, man.
long night, but you guys got a lot of opportunity to come around and hang out and just jam out. I actually am doing a thing at the Brickyard tomorrow, which will be cool. Literally, it will be cold, and thankfully they have an inside spot now, which is good. But I did not. I don't think I was aware until I saw them make the post this week that it's a fake Patty's party. So it's the early celebration. No one told me that.
Okay.
No one told me that. Yeah. So it's gonna be popping. It hopefully will be popping. It should be, because people love that place to begin with, and people here, there's a large Irish heritage population here. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So so I'm expecting a lot of people at that one. So I was like, man, I really can't just be going in there and chilling like I did on the last one. So it's kicking off the Brickyard season with this too. So it's a really cool opportunity. I'm starting the show season for the Brickyard tomorrow, which is a really cool opportunity. So yeah, a lot of good stuff, a lot going on, to be honest, but it'll be really cool.
Yeah,
And
man. Sounds awesome.
Yeah, and our friend of the show, Blake Ellis, he just moved to Nashville. We had him on a few weeks back. He just moved this morning. He left for Nashville. Said goodbye to he and his brother, who was helping him move, Brandon Ellis, last night. And so um, all the best wishes to him. But we were able to finish. He was tracking drums with me for the new No Signal stuff. And we were able to finish all of that before he moved. And I paid him handsomely for that because that was a lot to take on. And especially while you're planning to move, too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds so awesome. I started putting together the drum parts last night. I definitely can't wait to share it with you guys. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be so much fun. So it'll be cool. But yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get into this topic, man.
All right.
If you're ready. All right. 3, 2, 1. Before we begin, gotta make the usual reminders, all right? So first, the best ways to support us. The free way, who doesn't like free, right? And it's cheap and it's easy. All you have to do is leave us a rating and review wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening to us. And let us know what you think of the show, what you think of this episode. It will tell the algorithm people are reacting to the show. That'll help us out. And then we'll know how we're doing. And we love to continue to grow. We are still trending in Kuwait, by the way. I don't know if you're aware of that. Shout out to our friends in Kuwait. Hope you're doing well.
Exactly.
We really love connecting with you guys. Would love to connect with you more. So, reach out to us on our social media somehow. Maybe even jump on the live stream. Go to facebook.com/the catch-up cast. That's the next best way to support us, or over to our YouTube page. Just type in our podcast title on YouTube and you'll find the channel. We're live streaming on both right now. And why that is cool is you can jump in on the topic and leave your perspective on whatever we're talking about that particular episode in real time as we record it for the audio folks. We've been doing this for over a year now, which is crazy, and it's gone really well. It's really gotten us some great opportunities. I was thinking about the time last year when I live stream interviewed Alan Bestwick, a professional sports broadcaster. That was super cool. I sometimes forget that happened. I'm like, wait, there's no way that happened. So yeah, and then the next best way, if you want to support us beyond that, is to go to our website. It's nosignalrocks.com. There's a drop down menu for our podcast, and you'll find all of our videos, all of our episodes, and all of our merch and apparel in one place, including this good clean t-shirt I got on right now. I was saying earlier, I've literally been wearing this all day. It's super comfortable. And it's held up to me wearing it on the live streams almost every week. So good quality fabric. I'll just give you all a little expose, It's cool. And multiple colors, a lot of options. Of course, we got hoodies as well, mugs, phone cases, and hats and beanies. So a lot of ways to support us if you choose to. But with that said, man, yeah, let's jump into this topic. So I think the main focus of this here is how do we handle supporting the older generation, the people that raised us, right? As they get older, and perhaps deal with illnesses, or perhaps just deal with getting older, right? How do we do that?
Exactly.
So, I mean, my thing is, when I said it's about a perspective shift, what I really meant was focusing on the ability to spend time with them, right? That's or really just the time that you have spent. I think as I've gotten older, I've realized more and more how critical it is to cherish each moment, because you realize as you get older how fleeting some of those moments can be, truly. But the other side of that is, I had a great grandmother that was in my life until I was 25, right? And she was 99 at that point, about to turn 99. She was incredible, and she was still going to get her own groceries and all that until She was 94, I believe.
Wow.
Um, and you just wouldn't believe some of the things that she could still do. I saw her trip and catch herself in heels at the age of 90. Like, I'll never forget that. It was nuts. But when she had that decline, it was kind of sudden. But I was just thankful for all the many years I did have with her. How many people can say they had and were close with a great grandparent until they were in their 20s, mid 20s?
Hmm.
It's not very common. So I do look at that, but I also try to look at the fact of you are spending time with them, whereas other people just flat don't get to do that, even if it's not in the best of health conditions, right? And one more thing I want to mention off the top here, real quick. One of my favorite memories, and I can't tell you why, but I literally know the exact date. I know who was playing. It was the Packers and Lions playing in Detroit, 2011 Thanksgiving game. And my grandparents on my mom's side were in an assisted living home, and we all went over there. We all had dinner together, Thanksgiving dinner. My brother
Hmm.
came over too, and my dad and I sat in the commons area and watched. And my grandpa came too. And he was. I mean, they weren't doing well. My grandparents weren't doing well, but we sat and watched the football game together.
Hmm.
Um, and just I will never forget that moment for whatever reason, even though it wasn't in the best of situations. So,
Yeah.
um, oh, Catherine's jumping in on the live stream. Hello, hello
Yes.
there.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hi
you are
there.
the reason we are having this discussion today. Um, so thank you for the topic submission. Hope you're doing well. Um, but yeah, man, what do you think? What's your initial thoughts?
Yeah. No. I think it's kind of it's a weird transition. Just going off
Sure.
what you were saying, it's a weird transition because kind of like what you said earlier, it's you're seeing, your big caregivers, for your whole life, right? Caregivers and friends, um, essentially like changing in a way that you're not used to. I think it's part of like the I guess the next transition, right? Because I feel like the first part of like your relationship with your parents changes. I think when you're probably somewhere, each person's different, but I find like it's near like your 20s or so, like the early 20s, where you
Sure.
kind of understand, one, like my parents were trying their best, they did whatever they could, but sometimes that might not have been the right decision or whatever like that. You essentially kind of lose a little bit of that like superhero, seeing your parents as like superhero mentality, because you see that it's weird to say, but like they're just people, right?
Yeah.
They're
Right.
they're still people, and so everything that they do is what they could do, but sometimes it feels a little different. And then now as you get older, you get into that transition to where you become a caregiver, or I guess, yeah, caregiver and caretaker of
Yeah.
your caregivers.
No,
So
no.
it's a weird transition, and I think for me at least, um, it's a little scary, right? Because especially for me, because I've always known, I guess, in some ways that it's something that's inevitably going to happen.
Sure.
Um, it's just because people get
How
old.
life works. Yeah. Yep.
Exactly, and that's how life works. But it's I don't know. I look back, and it reminds me of when I was a kid, where I remember when I met like one of my cousins, and they were like 18 or 20 or something like that, and I was like 5, and I thought like, oh man, that's never going to happen to me. I'm never going to get that old or whatever like that, because in your eyes, when you're like super young, you think like that you'll never get to that age. And so it's the same with like seeing my parents get older, is like I never thought you would get to that age.
Sure.
um and so yeah, it's a scary thing, but it's also, I guess, my real fear is that I am not going to be good enough, right, to properly care for them in the way that, like, I guess they've been able to do for my whole life, right, and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, no, I get that. I yeah, you know, first of all, I do you ever get like, now that you're 28, right? Do you ever
mhm.
feel like I'm not as old as 28 as I thought I would be? You know,
Yeah, yeah.
because
No,
there are
I
some
get that
people,
feeling.
yeah, and I happen to know quite a few people up here that are like, um, oh man, I'm 30. I was talking to somebody a couple weeks ago. Oh, I'm about to turn 30. Man, I'm old, blah blah. Like, okay, no, man, you got all kinds of time. Old age is just
Mhm,
a mindset, and maybe it's because I surround myself with a lot of musicians that, a lot of them. One guy in particular, I actually just found out he is 41. And
mm,
I thought he was maybe 32, to be honest.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, it really is incredible. Another guy, I thought he was younger than me. He is 32. These are musicians again that I play around.
Mhm,
Um, but I get this personally. I either get people uh, that are in their mid 30s thinking I'm the same age as them,
mhm.
or people that are in their early 20s thinking I'm the same age as them. But
That's
rarely do I
interesting.
have, yeah, but rarely do I have people that are around my age thinking I'm the same age as them. It's really
Hmm.
weird. Um, but yeah, well, see, and Catherine, yeah, she jumped in on the live stream. She says, I'm still 28. And see, yeah, that's
Yeah,
it. You just got it's all about that frame of mind.
it
Uh,
is. It is.
I almost wrote down on a document just a couple minutes ago that it was 2016. So that tells you where my head's at. I still feel like I'm 22. Just like Taylor Swift said. But yeah, you talk about that with what you call your heroes and stuff. And it is tough. I have been incredibly fortunate with those people who are older than me that I'm around to have longevity, um, and kind of an easy slide into older age for the most part.
Mhm,
Um, but still, it's not easy. And to be completely honest, when you think about it, yeah, like I said, I try to go into it with a positive attitude, but that's not always the case, right? And
mhm,
um, sometimes, when you see these people age, you think, man, I thought I was gonna have more time, you know.
yep,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah. So, especially when you experience death in the family, and sometimes it can be, you've seen it coming, or other times you can see the decline in health and then like a plateau, and you think, okay, well, this is the new normal, but whatever. And then all of a
Mhm,
sudden, no. Personally speaking, I have been. There's been at least. Um, I don't want to say every year, but it seems like death of someone I was close to has happened every year since I was probably 16, right?
mhm,
Um, and that's not accurate, but it's close.
mhm.
Um, now on the flip side, of that I've had the good fortune of being close to a lot of people in my family, which is cool.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's something that, well, I'll just say it to you like this. So I was close with all three of these people. Okay, I lost one relative, funeral for them. We went back uh to a house after that and found out that another relative had died during that funeral.
Yeah.
you know like they were at home, but still. um and then 4 weeks later, 3 weeks later, there was another death, and I was close with all three of these people. I was only 16, maybe 17 at the time, and that was not
Mhm.
easy for me. That was a real challenge. But I think
Yeah.
because I dealt with that early in life, it did teach me to not take those moments for granted.
Mhm.
And and that's really how I'd like to approach it. Now there are other times, which I don't know if you're like this, but there are other times where I feel like I avoid somebody when I see a decline in health because I don't want to deal emotionally with that, right? And that's
Mhm.
me not showing up as my best self personally. I don't know how you deal with that kind of stuff on your end.
Yeah. So I think I will say, like, I do find that I have that mentality sometimes where it's just, yeah, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's like a defense mechanism, right? For my brain, to be like, hey, we just don't want to, we want to minimize uh trauma, I guess, or whatever like that.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I have to kind of psych myself out of that mentality. Because yeah, it really does, it does rock you, like when you lose a loved one.
Sure.
Um and it can be really hard. And so, but I guess that's the thing. It's like you have to make sure that it doesn't rock you so hard that um you can't recover, or you don't feel like you're able to properly recover or whatever like that.
Right.
And so yeah, I think that's kind of been one of the struggles that I've had to kind of um work on for myself. um so
Yeah.
yeah, it's been interesting. And it kind of going from there, like I feel like it's not any better when you have to, when someone does get ill, and you kind of, I think it's a little bit interesting when you have to be the caretaker for that person. It's like
Yeah.
you can't escape it. Which, of course, escaping isn't the best thing, but it's like,
Right.
I guess that's a fear of mine too. Is like I am, the primary caretaker, and I'm taking care of them, but I don't want to get to a point to where I I guess avoid to try to keep myself
Sure.
in a good space. I don't know. It's weird.
It's it's tough. Yeah, it really is. And you have to power through that. It is something I've worked on as I've gotten older, but I'm not the best at it. I'm not. Um, yeah, I think that would be a thing that I'm seeing myself, to answer this topic more so is kind of avoidance, of the
Yeah.
situation sometimes, as you were saying. And yeah, it's not easy. It's not ideal. None of this ever is easy. But we were talking about this before we started recording. But what you see a lot is things that in the overall grand scheme of human existence is relatively new. People living into
Mhm.
their 60s and then 70s and then 80s. I would say what 120, 130 years ago, not very common, right?
Yeah.
Not very common at all. And you look at, okay, from our perspective, that's a long time ago, right? But in history, it's not. So there's more room for these type of things to happen. For this, heart disease is the number one killer in America, right?
Yeah.
And there's a few reasons for that, but smoking and uh, terrible diets are among those, right? But
Mhm.
those are things that are going to catch up with you when you get older, to the age that people are living now. Um, on the flip side of that, you have a lot of people that are living longer because their overall health is better. So you could look at as people are living longer because they're not having like terrible diseases taking their lives, when they're younger.
Mhm.
The plague and whatnot. Um, so it really is just something that every generation has had to deal with. I think it makes you tougher, but on a personal standpoint, I think it's why it's important to believe in something greater than yourself, you know,
Yeah.
because what motivation would you have in life if you just see people die and it's hard on you and you're like, well, I guess that's it. I guess that's it for them, right? It'd be kind of tough. It'd be kind of
Yeah.
tough to have motivation, um, from my perspective. So, anyway, another comment from Catherine. She says, you have to be able to ask for help also. It's too much for one person to be sole caregiver. Absolutely.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. I know some people in my family have tried that, to do it all alone. And then I know others who have come together and seen the disparities between the two and how those situations were handled, for sure. But yeah, man, I mean, it's just something that I think comes with age. And for me personally, while I would like to have had some of those younger years where it wasn't one after another, um, at this point in my life, it's not like it's a culture shock to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I completely, I'm right there with you. I didn't have, oh well, um I did, because I remember for me it was, it was when I lost my grandparents. And so it was hard for me at the time, but I was able to, in some ways, that I guess I should say, it taught me, one, about myself and how I deal with grief, and two, it taught me about, um, like, I guess, the correct way to deal with it. And then when I lost my other grandparent, it was, I think it was like another wake up call to kind of like reinforce those. And so, um, I think
yeah,
it does kind of prepare you a little bit better,
yeah,
when you have to go through that type of grief.
yeah. Another comment here. How's your faith help you deal with loss? Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I'll say, for me, one of the biggest things was, like, I remember, is like when I lost my granny. Um, I was devastated because I remember all the times that I had spent with her. It's like, when you hear someone, that you were really, really close with, has died, like, all those thoughts, right? All those thoughts that you had, all those memories that you had with that person come flooding to the surface.
Yeah,
And, um, I was really, really heartbroken, and it really, really, took a toll on me. And, um, for me personally, with my faith in God, it helped me. My faith helped me come back from that really, really heavy grief, because I remember distinctly praying, like, every single day, as I was dealing with it, just for guidance and help and stuff like that. And I remember there was one night where I was just up crying and whatever, and I couldn't, and I was just really having a hard time. And then I just prayed for, like, calmness, and it was just almost immediate where I got that. And what came with that calmness was also the clarity of knowing that my granny was in a far better place,
yeah,
and that I didn't have to worry anymore. Right? I didn't have to worry about, because she had kind of, her health had started to decline. So it wasn't a huge shock, but it was still there. Um, and so it was one of those feelings of, like, she doesn't have to suffer anymore. And so she's in a far better place. She's in good hands. And I think that's what helped me so much, is knowing that there's a place after death. I think that makes it even better, to
yeah,
where I know that I don't have to worry about, like, I'm just never going to see them again. There is a promised land that I can see them again. Right? It's more of
sure.
like, death is less of a absolute and more of a promise.
Yeah.
or promise to see them again. So
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. It's interesting. A lot of things that you brought up. I found my strength, I'm sorry, I found my faith stronger than it has been in a long time lately, and I'm very thankful for that. And one of the things I remember, um, I think people discount how solid of a public speaker Steve Harvey is. And
hmm
he's a great example of a guy that picked himself up. I mean, Jay Leno is too, but they really were committed to their craft, so much so they're willing to sleep in their cars and make sacrifices and do all these things. And so he's a man of faith, right? And
hmm
one of the things that he said that I really liked was, you don't pray big enough. You know what I mean? You don't pray big enough. And in a way, if you're not truly praying for like your grand scheme, like your biggest desire, what you would want, of course it has to be in step with God, right?
yeah.
Can't be like, I want 10 women follow me around everywhere I go. You can't be like that.
hmm
But let's say for his example, he wanted his own plot of land, right? And then he
hmm
prayed for that, and then he ended up doing some math for what every person based off of world population at that time was owed, uh,
hmm
for their own plot of land, and that's what he went for, and that's essentially what he got. But then he ended up with so much more, and then he turned it into a boys' like ranch kind of a thing, like to
hmm
help underprivileged young men. And that's a perfect example of how praying for something big can turn into, with that true faith, something for God's work. Um, so for me, also, he says, you're disrespecting God if you're not praying big, because that means you have doubt, right? That means that you're
Yeah.
doubting that he will actually do that thing that you really would want, what I mean?
hmm
So, um, for me, like, I've found so much strength and peace and more of a united feeling by praying in that big way. And what it's really reminded me of is just that confidence, and that trust that things will work out no matter what the situation. But
hmm
um, in this case, with loss, yeah, you will see these people on the other side.
hmm
Why we get put on this earth, for this revolving cycle of trying to make the world better and then go to heaven, we really won't know until we're there. um I think the reason is personal to each of us, though. But
hmm
that is really how my faith helps me deal with loss. Is I am surrounded by, for the most part, a family who has a lot of faith, and so you trust that you see them on the other side.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. And just keep in mind too, it is called faith, it's not called knowing. That's
hmm
why, and all God says, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can, move mountains, right? So it's
hmm
it's literally just faith. Um, so yeah, I don't know if we need to rebrand this for a worship podcast right now, but this has been a good discussion on this. I do want to switch
Yeah.
topics real quick. And
hmm
I mean, we'll touch on this briefly because I got a show tonight. Um, but man, I've seen all over the news, and also before I jump into this, I want to thank you again, Catherine, for this topic submission, and wherever you guys are,
Yes.
are listening to, you can jump out in the comments or direct message us. I know I've gotten a couple over on our Instagram page as well in the comments section. So you can email us at theketchupcast@gmail.com. All of this
hmm
is linked in the audio description, but let us know what's been trending in your world, or just whatever topic has been on your mind, on your heart. And then let us know, and we can talk about it on the podcast. And we'll do it every week. So,
Yeah,
um,
exactly. And also don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel because you'll be able to, just in case you can't hit us on Facebook, you can also check us out on YouTube and you'll be able to leave your comments there, which we do read, and we can also get just topics for next time. So yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, man. So this next topic is man, I've seen a lot of conspiracy theories, even posted by some people I know, that the government, not necessarily the Biden administration, but the government,
Hmm.
is using the crisis in Ukraine to push electric vehicles. Now, I'm going to be
Mm.
completely honest with you. I considered this. I did. I
You
considered,
sipped the Kool-Aid a little bit.
well, not for the reason everybody else did, though, because the
Mm.
most common, well, I'll get to what other people think in a
Okay.
second. What I was considering is there's no secret that General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler have huge, and Toyota have huge lobbying arms on Capitol Hill. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of funding goes into that, and the demand to meet these EPA regulations for average fuel economy for your entire fleet of vehicles is pretty stringent. It's coming up quick, so that's why so many are switching to electric. Because it has to be an average of 35 miles per gallon for your entire fleet.
Yeah.
Um, And so, we were talking a couple weeks back about how those are so high priced, right? Or they will be when they come out. And the take value of that probably not going to be very high. So rather than lower the price of the cars, why not raise the price of gasoline to force people into buying electric cars, right? For the
Mm.
profit of those businesses. For the profit
Hmm.
of those businesses, okay? Um, so I'm not gonna lie, there's still a part of me that feels that way. Um, but I don't know. I mean, there's so many factors going on here.
Hmm.
It's almost like it'd be like this. We have to do this. Let's say I am right. Okay. Hypothetically. Deep down I don't think I am, but let's say hypothetically I am. So it would be like this. You have a guy in a room that's like, "Oh man, we have to do this because we have to be tough on Russia. We have to do this and it's going to impact this. Oh, and also it's gonna make people probably want to buy electric cars more. And they're like, do it. I mean, it was like a oh, by the way kind of thing.
Hmm.
Definitely not the main intention though. Like and that's what's crazy is people are acting like, oh man, we propagated this
Hmm.
for the push, the whole thing, the whole crisis, right?
Which is crazy.
Right. For the push of electric vehicles. And it's not for the reason I was insinuating. It is because in their mind, being that's electric, this is how ignorant people are. We're about to roast them, dude. Being that's electric, the government would have the power to turn off your car at any time, man.
What? How does that even work?
Flip a switch, obviously.
Yeah, just just because that's how that works, just like they can turn off your electricity in your house, right?
Right. Tick, 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 tick. Yeah, definitely. Private industry hasn't already taken over that. My thing is this: they have just as much likelihood of doing that. The steps it would take to remove electricity access for your electric vehicle are the same steps it would take to do that with oil and gas. And you
Hmm.
don't see that happening, do you? But
Exactly.
let's say I think there are certain people that are implying that they could take control of the car, shut it off. They can already do that, right? I
Hackers can
posted
do that.
hackers,
They proved that what all the way back in 2013, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, hackers can hack your car,
Hmm.
right? Because of
Yeah.
the connectivity to LTE and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're able to control your brakes. They can control the accelerator in some cases. It all just depends on how advanced the car is and how many systems are tied into that. So yeah, it's not really all that. It's not all that. Like I don't know why it's such a big like scary thing. I guess in some ways, and I always think when it comes to these conspiracy theories is like, what do you gain? What do they gain? That I think that's the biggest thing that you have to like really think about. Like, okay, cool, they can turn your car off. What does that mean? Like,
What are they getting?
how does that help them?
No
That
idea.
actually causes issues with the economy, that causes issues with all sorts of things. Because if you can't get to work, if you can't go to buy groceries, if you can't go to shop, you're actually hurting the economy, which also means that there are less taxes. There's less things that they can profit off of. So it's just,
Yeah.
it's always
But
funny. But
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
don't know if they picture it's gonna be like an entire army of vehicles just going straight down a highway together, marching in time at the control of the government, and people are locked inside screaming to help.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what people think. I mean, just people want to not trust the government or be scared or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't I don't know, man. But it was funny, and you're right. So even my 2011 Silverado, not connected to the internet, but it is connected to OnStar, which I realize has an exclusive deal with General Motors. But if your vehicle has anything like that, they can hack into my truck, not hack, but they can access my truck through OnStar
Mm-hmm.
and turn it off if they wanted to. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I posted a video about that, and I think they actually promoted it now as they will slow down your vehicle rather than just shut it off. But
Mm-hmm.
there used to be an ad that they showed shutting this Suburban off on the highway, when police were chasing it. Um, and so these things are not new. If you have made the decision to buy a connected vehicle, your car can be hacked. It doesn't matter if it's electric, gas, flies, or what. I don't know. But I just think it really is wild to me how much people want there to be something. And to be
Yeah.
fair, some of it is not created by people, it's created by bots. We've talked
Yeah.
about this multiple times, but people are still ignorant for following that. And it's funny because I was watching the news, and so Vladimir Putin's putting out a lot of propaganda about the purpose of the war and how it benefits Russia and all that. And he, so the study shows that most of the people that are uh, believing him, are undereducated, living in rural areas,
Mm-hmm.
um, older generations, those type of things. I'm like, man, that's so interesting because that often is the same population that believes the kind of propaganda over here, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, for that type of stuff. And so I don't know. It really is interesting. I almost wonder if Russia learned that from us, um, or through us, I guess. But yeah, so just anyway, keep that in mind. We talk a lot about electric cars on here, but I don't. What, as you said, what would the government gain from controlling our vehicles?
Yeah, exactly. And also, what would they gain for making everyone go electric? Like, even if you go outside of the controlling your vehicles, like, what, I guess, extra do they gain for making everyone do that? Because you're also, at least the way the gas prices are, that puts a squeeze on people. So, that, I don't know. There's just a lot of steps that would make any sense, and it's also, it sounds too perfect. I always think of it, it's like, how is it that they were able to think 5 or 6 thousand steps ahead just to
Right.
be like, oh yeah, so that way we can get everyone to turn, so we can turn everyone's car off. Like,
Yeah,
it's just,
with the change in lawmakers and the change in um just leadership, always based off voters, based off appointments, all that kind of stuff.
exactly.
But man, that's why you got to think about the deep state, man. That's why. It's the deep state because they all know, they all have a plan. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
no. Do you have any final thoughts on this, man, before we sign off?
um, I think it's just, I think, right now there's a lot that's going on in the world, and I just want everyone to just take the time, no matter what you hear or whatever like that, take the time and just really consume it for a second, and then do a little bit of research if it's possible, right? Or
Yeah.
even just debunk it. I always say, like, if you hear something that sounds kind of weird or whatever like that, or even something that sounds like, oh, well, that might be plausible, debunk it for yourself, or at least try to debunk it. If it's really, really hard to debunk it, then hey, you might be on the right track. But,
Yeah.
you know, but if you can debunk it really quickly, just with quick thoughts or whatever like that, then it's usually not right.
Fit.
But
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, good stuff, man, for sure. All right, yeah. Well, this has been a great episode. Thank you again, Catherine, for submitting your topic for us. It's
Thank
been
you.
good. Um, and yeah, again, leave us your topic, whatever's been on your mind, whatever's been trending in your world, anywhere, and we'll get into it on an upcoming episode of the Catch Up Podcast. So, yeah, this has been a good one. Thank you guys so much for catching up with us, and we'll catch up with you next week.